Did you know that some of the foods sitting in your fridge right now, the ones you thought were protecting your health, may actually be quietly breaking your body down bit by bit? It's not because you're eating too much sugar. It's not because you're living on processed food. It's because of how you're storing certain foods that seem healthy on the surface. Take Mrs. Mary, 67, a careful home cook, health conscious to the core. She never ate fried food, always chose fresh vegetables, avoided soda like the plague. But for 3 years, her health kept declining. Constant fatigue, sleepless nights, random headaches with no clear cause. She tried every vitamin, went to multiple doctors. All her test results? Normal. Then, in a session with a nutritionist, someone asked, "How do you store your potatoes?" She answered honestly, "I always keep them in the fridge to keep them fresh." And that, right there, was the hidden trigger behind everything. You see, the fridge isn't a magic box of health. We've been led to believe that as long as we refrigerate things, they'll stay nutritious and safe. But the truth is, for some foods, cold temperatures can alter their chemistry, strip their nutrients, and even trigger the formation of toxins. Some of these are directly linked to blood sugar imbalances, chronic inflammation, and worse, compounds associated with cancer. Imagine biting into a perfectly normal-looking potato, but if it's been stored in the fridge, the starch inside may have already converted to sugar. And when you cook it, especially by frying or roasting, that sugar transforms into acrylamide. You can't smell it, you can't taste it, but it's there, and it builds up in your body over time. You don't need to be a chemist to protect yourself, but you do need awareness.
Your fridge is not a health sanctuary. Used incorrectly, it becomes a silent source of harm, especially after age 60, when your body becomes more sensitive to toxins, inflammation, and imbalances. Here's what's even more alarming. Most older adults have no idea. They store potatoes, tomatoes, bread, and more in the fridge, thinking they're being careful. They do it out of love, out of habit, out of everything they were taught growing up, but they may be unknowingly putting themselves and their loved ones at risk. So today, I'm going to walk you through it. No jargon, no complicated science. Just 7 foods you should never put in the fridge if you want to protect your health, reduce cancer risk, and stay strong and sharp well into your 60s and beyond. We'll cover each one, explain exactly what happens inside your fridge, and most importantly, I'll show you simple, easy storage alternatives you can start using today right in your own kitchen. No new gadgets, no complicated prep. Just a little knowledge and the right actions. Ready? Because what comes next might just change the way you look at your fridge for good.
Mr. Robert is 72 years old. He lives alone in the suburbs of Ohio, and his kitchen is always spotless and well organized. One thing he's always been proud of: his fridge never runs out of potatoes. "They're good for the heart, good for digestion," he used to say. So every week, he bought several pounds of potatoes and stored them right away in the bottom drawer of his fridge, hoping to keep them fresh longer and avoid too many trips to the store. But what he didn't realize was that this very habit led him to the hospital, with acute stomach pain, a sudden spike in blood pressure, and weeks of severe insomnia. Doctors couldn't find anything alarming in his blood work or organ scans. But when he mentioned that he regularly ate fried or roasted potatoes, made from spuds he'd kept refrigerated for over a week, a nutrition specialist at the hospital spoke up. "That could very well be the reason your body is reacting so strongly." Here's what actually happens. When raw potatoes are stored in cold temperatures, especially below 46 degrees Fahrenheit, 8 degrees Celsius, the starch in the potato begins to convert into sugar at a faster rate. This alters the chemical structure of the potato. Then, when you bake or fry those potatoes at high heat, especially over 250 degrees Fahrenheit, 120 degrees Celsius, those sugars react with an amino acid called asparagine. The result? A chemical compound called acrylamide is formed. Acrylamide is no stranger to scientists. It's a substance that's been studied for over 20 years. Numerous studies suggest that acrylamide can damage cells, alter DNA, and potentially promote the development of cancer cells. In particular, research has shown links between acrylamide and cancers such as ovarian, esophageal, and endometrial cancer.
What's even more troubling is this. You can't smell it, taste it, or see it. A fried potato might look perfectly golden, crispy, and delicious, but if it was refrigerated before cooking, it could contain significantly higher levels of acrylamide. And if you're over 60, your body's ability to eliminate this toxin from your bloodstream is slower. That means it can build up more, and so do the risks to your health. Now, think about it. When was the last time you had fried potatoes? Were those potatoes sitting in the fridge for a few days first? You probably thought you were enjoying a simple, wholesome meal, when in fact, you might have been unknowingly feeding your body something harmful. This isn't meant to scare you, but it is meant to help you understand what's happening, and more importantly, how to protect yourself. And the solution? It's easier than you think. The best way to store potatoes is to keep them in a cool, dry, well-ventilated place, away from sunlight. A mesh basket placed in a kitchen corner, not near the stove or oven, is ideal. Avoid plastic bags, since lack of air circulation can cause potatoes to soften or sprout. And if possible, try to use them within 1 week of purchase. There's no need to stockpile. Let your food serve your health, not the other way around. Since his hospital stay, Mr. Robert made a few simple changes. Now he stores his potatoes in a paper bag, checks them daily to prevent sprouting, and only fries them once a week at moderate temperatures. "I didn't give up potatoes," he says with a smile. "I just learned to eat them the right way, and I feel stronger every day because of it."
Linda, 68, lives in New Mexico. She has always believed in clean eating. Every morning, she would make herself a glass of fresh tomato juice. Every lunch, she added sliced tomatoes to her salad. But then, for more than 4 months, something changed. Everything began to taste bland. Not just the flavor of food, but also her sense of fullness and energy started to fade. She became bloated, struggled with digestion, and lost interest in eating altogether. Her daughter thought she might be depressed, but the real cause came from something Linda had considered a healthy habit: storing tomatoes in the refrigerator. Linda's story is far from rare. Many people believe the refrigerator is the best place to keep fruits and vegetables fresh. Looking at those shiny tomatoes in the fridge drawer, it's easy to assume they're still good. But on the inside, the most important thing has already disappeared: lycopene. Lycopene is a natural antioxidant that protects the body from cell damage, slows aging, supports heart health, and lowers the risk of cancers such as prostate, breast, and pancreatic cancer. Tomatoes are one of the richest natural sources of lycopene. But here's the key. For lycopene to develop properly, tomatoes need to ripen naturally at room temperature. When you put an unripe tomato in the fridge, the ripening process is interrupted. The enzymes that trigger lycopene production and flavor are shut down. The result? A tomato that still looks red, but is bland, mushy, and lacking its natural juiciness. It loses its sweetness and turns into something dull and hard to swallow. That's what happened to Linda. a woman who once loved tomatoes but began to feel disheartened at every meal. And it's not just about flavor or nutrition.
Refrigerated tomatoes are also vulnerable to what's called cold injury, meaning their internal cell structure breaks down due to low temperatures. Tomatoes don't handle cold well. They're warm climate fruits that need natural air moisture, not condensation from a fridge drawer. Once you take them out, the texture becomes soggy, the stems start to rot, and the worst part is you won't notice until you cut it open. The fix is simple. Stop putting tomatoes in the refrigerator. Instead, store them on the kitchen counter, in a lightly lit area away from direct sunlight. If you buy them green, place them next to a banana or apple. These fruits naturally emit ethylene gas, which speeds up ripening. Within a day or two, your tomatoes will turn redder, softer, more fragrant, just as they should to deliver their full nutritional value. After a friend advised Linda to stop refrigerating her tomatoes, she gave it a try. Just 1 week later, she felt completely different. Her meals tasted better. Her salads no longer felt like water. Her digestion settled. "I didn't think something that small could have such an impact on my health," she shared during a local community center gathering. Change often comes from the smallest things. Tomatoes don't need cold to stay fresh. They need air, room temperature, and time to fully develop the nutrients your body needs. If you've ever eaten cold tomatoes and felt bloated or lost your appetite for veggies, now you know why. And more importantly, you know how to bring back the true taste and full benefit of this remarkable fruit.
James is 74 years old. He used to be an aerospace engineer and has been living alone since his wife passed away 5 years ago. Since then, he's learned to take care of himself, doing laundry, cooking meals, managing the house. One habit that made him feel particularly safe was keeping whole grain bread in the fridge. He believed it would help the bread last longer, especially since he only ate a couple of slices a day. But what he didn't expect was this. His stomach began to feel constantly bloated, and eating made him feel heavy. The bread grew dry and harder to swallow. One day, he even noticed white specks on the crust. At first, he thought it was dust, but it turned out to be mold. James's story is not unique. Many older adults, worried about food spoiling too quickly, choose to store almost everything in the refrigerator, assuming it's the safest place. But when it comes to bread, especially natural whole grain or preservative-free loaves, this habit may actually do more harm than good. Yes, the fridge slows down spoilage, but it also causes something few people realize. Cold air dries out bread fast. Low temperatures disrupt the starch structure and force moisture out of the bread. As a result, your once soft loaf becomes crumbly and stiff, sometimes in just 1 day. That fresh, springy texture, gone. Even worse, the humidity in refrigerators is not what most people imagine. Moist air, combined with condensation, creates an ideal environment for mold growth. You may not see it right away, but microorganisms sneak into tiny cracks in the crust. And when you eat that slice, your body becomes the host. In older adults, whose digestive and immune systems are more fragile, this can cause bloating, stomach upset, and even mild food poisoning without you realizing the cause.
So what's the better option? If you plan to eat your bread within 1 to 2 days, store it in a cloth bag or airtight container in a cool, dry place. Keep it away from heat sources or direct sunlight. But if you've bought more than you can eat right away, or if you're unsure how fast you'll finish it, then the smartest option is freezing. Freezing bread not only preserves it longer, but also offers a surprising benefit. When you defrost and reheat frozen bread in a toaster or oven, the starch undergoes a transformation. It becomes what's known as resistant starch, a type of fiber that supports digestion, balances blood sugar, and is especially beneficial for older adults. Studies have shown that resistant starch feeds good gut bacteria, improving gut microbiome health, which in turn strengthens immune function, a critical line of defense in aging bodies. After his niece explained this to him, James stopped storing bread in the fridge. Now he keeps his loaves in the freezer, toasts one slice at a time, and enjoys bread that's still soft and flavorful. More importantly, he no longer experiences that heavy, bloated feeling. "I used to think the fridge was the safest place for everything," he said. "Now I understand, true safety comes from understanding what's right and doing it right."
Grace is 65 years old. Living in California, she has a morning ritual she enjoys: toasted whole grain bread with avocado and a hard-boiled egg. But recently, something began to feel off. The avocado turned mushy. The flesh inside turned grayish-brown. It had a bitter taste and left a harsh feeling in her throat. At first, she thought the avocado had simply gone bad. But the real issue? It was her habit of putting green avocados into the refrigerator right after bringing them home. A habit that was unintentionally ruining this nutritious fruit from the inside out. The problem lies in how avocados ripen. They follow a natural process. When avocados are still green, they contain high levels of active enzymes designed to gradually soften the flesh and develop that smooth, creamy texture we love. But when placed in a cold environment too early, those enzymes are shut down. Ripening slows or becomes uneven. The result? An avocado that's lost its velvety texture, its gentle richness, and most of all, its health benefits, especially the monounsaturated fats so crucial for heart and brain health. Older adults are often advised to eat avocados to improve blood circulation, support brain function, and lower bad cholesterol. But an avocado that's had its enzymes stalled and structure damaged by cold? It no longer delivers on those benefits. In fact, it can cause discomfort, indigestion, bloating, especially in those with sensitive stomachs or gallbladder issues. This is one reason many people say they don't feel any benefit from eating avocados, or worse, they feel uneasy after eating them.
Grace, after consulting with a nutritionist, changed how she handled her avocados. Now, when she brings home green avocados, she places them in a basket next to apples or bananas. These fruits release ethylene, a natural gas that gently encourages avocados to ripen evenly at room temperature without losing nutrients or flavor. After 1 to 3 days, when they've just ripened, she puts them in the fridge only if she's not eating them right away. And once cut, she uses a simple trick: a few drops of lemon juice on the exposed flesh, sealed in an airtight container. This keeps the color fresh, the taste smooth, and extends the freshness for another 1 to 2 days. These small changes made a big difference. Now, each morning, Grace no longer bites into a bitter, mushy avocado, but instead enjoys smooth, creamy slices that taste as fresh as they did in her younger years. She said, "Once you understand it better, eating well becomes both delicious and healthy, and it doesn't cost a dime more." Many older adults like Grace used to believe that the fridge is always the best place for food. But now they've learned not all foods benefit from cold storage, especially those that are still alive, like avocados, which need time and natural warmth to complete their ripening process and develop their full nutritional potential. Just a little awareness, a little patience, and in return, your heart and brain are better cared for, day by day, from something as simple as a properly ripened slice of avocado.
During a local community center meeting, Cynthia, 69 years old, raised her hand with a slightly confused look.
I always thought bananas should be kept in the fridge to last longer, but after just a few days, the peel turns black, the inside is cold and mushy, and it just doesn't taste right anymore. Her story isn't unique. Many people from her generation have repeated this habit for years, simply because they believed cold means better preservation. But when it comes to bananas, the reality is the opposite. Bananas are tropical fruits. Their golden skin and sweet aroma thrive best in warm, airy environments. When you put bananas in the fridge, the ripening process doesn't stop. It gets disrupted. The cold temperature breaks down the enzymes that are responsible for their color and aroma. That's why the peel turns black quickly, even though the inside may still be underripe or ripens unevenly. The flesh becomes mushy, loses its texture, tastes bitter, and may even begin to ferment. There's another hidden issue many people overlook. Overripe bananas, especially after cold storage, have a much higher glycemic index. This is a real concern for older adults, especially those with diabetes risk, high blood pressure, or weight challenges. When you eat an overly ripe banana, the sugars absorb into your bloodstream too quickly, which can spike blood sugar levels, make you feel tired, and create false hunger, often leading to overeating or metabolic imbalances. Larry, 71 years old and previously pre-diabetic, shared his experience after speaking with a nutritionist. He stopped refrigerating bananas. Instead, he buys smaller bunches, keeps them in a cool, shaded spot away from direct sunlight. When the bananas ripen evenly, but he can't eat them in time, he peels and slices them, stores them in a sealed container, and freezes them. Each morning, he blends a few frozen slices with plant-based milk for a smoothie. Cool, gently sweet, and without the blood sugar spikes that come with eating overripe bananas. This simple change helped Larry cut waste while preserving the banana's real benefits, from potassium for heart health to fiber for digestion. He said, "I used to think of bananas as just an easy snack. Now I see them as something that needs to be treated right to really benefit my body." Even small actions, like learning how to store bananas correctly, can impact your blood sugar, your taste experience, and your sense of joy in eating. In the world of aging, where every meal becomes more meaningful, these so-called minor changes can make a very real difference. Not every food belongs in the fridge, and bananas are one of the clearest examples that sometimes giving food the right environment is the best way to support your health.
Many older adults, especially those who've cooked for themselves since they were young, often keep a jar of garlic in oil ready in the kitchen. It's convenient, fragrant, and easy to use. Helen, 70, shared during a health session at a senior community in Arizona that she'd been using garlic oil every day in her cooking. That is, until she was rushed to the hospital with severe abdominal pain. The diagnosis? Botulism poisoning, a rare but extremely dangerous condition that can cause muscle paralysis and even death. The culprit? That very jar of garlic in oil she believed was safe. Here's the truth. When garlic is peeled and submerged in oil without proper sterilization or preservation, it creates an anaerobic environment, meaning there's no oxygen. And this is exactly the type of environment where Clostridium botulinum bacteria can thrive. This bacteria doesn't change the color of the garlic. It doesn't produce a bad smell, but it creates a neurotoxin so powerful that even a tiny amount can damage the nervous system, especially in older adults with weakened immunity. And even if you're not making garlic oil, storing garlic in the fridge isn't ideal either. When whole bulbs are placed in the refrigerator, especially peeled or chopped garlic, they often begin to sprout. You may think that little green sprout is harmless, but once garlic begins to sprout, its most beneficial compound, allicin, begins to break down. Allicin is the reason garlic is considered a natural remedy. It's known for its antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, heart protective, and blood pressure regulating effects. Without it, garlic becomes just another seasoning, or worse, something that may harm rather than help.
A nutritionist once told me, "Garlic doesn't need refrigeration. It needs to breathe." That might sound strange, but it's absolutely true. Garlic should be stored in a cool, dry, well-ventilated place, like a wicker basket, a cloth bag, or an uncovered glass jar tucked in the corner of the kitchen, away from direct sunlight. If you want to save time, there's a safer option. Chop garlic and freeze it in ice cube trays or small portions. That way you preserve its flavor and benefits, and completely eliminate the risk of bacterial contamination. Garlic is a gift from nature if used properly. But when we choose convenience over safety, even the healthiest ingredient can become a hidden threat. Older adults need to be even more cautious, because sometimes the body doesn't give a clear warning, and not every mistake can be fixed with a simple pill. So let garlic be a trusted ally in your kitchen, not a silent danger.
Mr. Walter, 69, from Colorado, once shared a seemingly small story that truly startled him. Every morning, he mixed a spoonful of honey into warm water to keep the throat healthy, he said. One cold morning, he pulled the honey out of the fridge and found it solid, thick and clumped like wax. Not thinking much of it, he popped the whole jar in the microwave. After that, something felt off. He no longer noticed that familiar floral scent, and his throat, still dry and scratchy. "It just felt like I was swallowing syrup," he said. This is a problem many people unknowingly face. Honey should never be stored in the fridge. When exposed to cold temperatures, honey naturally crystallizes, a harmless but inconvenient reaction where glucose bonds with moisture, turning smooth honey into a gritty, solid mess. What's worse is how we try to fix it, by overheating. Microwaving or boiling honey damages its most valuable components, the natural enzymes responsible for its antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, and immune-supporting properties. Once destroyed, those enzymes don't come back. What's left is just sweetness, not healing.
There's also a dangerous misconception. If honey is good for you, more must be better. Not true. Even though honey is natural, it's still high in simple sugars. Many older adults take 2 or 3 spoonfuls a day as a sugar substitute, believing it's healthier. But that habit can raise blood sugar, disrupt lipid levels, and worsen chronic inflammation, especially for those managing blood pressure or prediabetes. The solution is simple. Store honey at room temperature, in a tightly sealed glass jar, away from sunlight and humidity. Avoid metal lids, which can oxidize, and never refrigerate unless absolutely necessary. And treat honey as what it truly is, a natural medicine, not a daily indulgence. A small spoonful at the right time with clear intent holds more power than a habit formed from hearsay.
Sometimes the tiniest things make the biggest difference, especially when your body no longer bounces back like it did in your 20s. Simple habits like where you store potatoes, how you keep honey, or whether you refrigerate tomatoes, they may seem trivial, but they could be silently impacting your health every single day. After 60, everything changes. Your immune system slows down, your digestion becomes more sensitive, and your body becomes more vulnerable to small mistakes in how you cook, eat, and store your food.
That's why I want to invite you to a simple challenge, just 7 days, that might become a turning point. I call it the 7-Day Food Safe Challenge. Each day, you'll adjust one of the 7 common foods we've talked about. Day 1, remove potatoes from the fridge. Day 2, let tomatoes ripen the right way, outside the cold, and so on. By day 7, you may notice a few small shifts: deeper sleep, less bloating, maybe even more steady energy. If you can, jot down a few notes in a notebook each day. Or better yet, leave a comment below this video and share. Which of the 7 food mistakes were you making? We'd love to hear your story, because your story could help someone else start their own change. And if you found this video helpful, please don't hesitate to send it to a parent, a friend, a neighbor, especially if they're over 60. They might not realize their own fridge could be quietly making things worse, but now you do. And sometimes one simple share could save someone from an illness that never needed to happen.
You don't need to turn your life upside down to be healthier. You don't need to overhaul your entire diet. You don't need to spend money on expensive solutions. Sometimes, all it takes is a second look at what's already sitting in your own kitchen. A potato stored in the right spot. A tomato kept in the right place. A jar of honey that's treated with care. This isn't just food storage, it's self-protection. I know that after 60, we've all felt it at some point. The fatigue, the restless nights, the meals that don't taste the same, the energy that fades before the day is done. But you're not alone. And the beautiful truth is, you can still take action. You don't have to be strong like you once were, just clear-headed enough to choose wisely. Print out the list of the 7 foods we talked about. Stick it on your fridge, so every time you open the door, you're reminded you are caring for your future. Because this isn't just about eating right, it's about living right. We, the ones who've walked through more than half a lifetime, deserve not just longer years, but better ones. Years filled with ease, with health, with purpose. If this video helped you, please subscribe. Leave a comment with the one food you're changing today, and don't forget to share it with someone you care about. Sometimes the simplest change becomes the strongest defense.